Now, I've got to be honest with you, I didn't want to immediately make this video because I think that there's a lot of impact analysis that needs to be done based off of the fact that the Bone Spear Necromancer, the Blood Spear Necromancer, the one that I myself even hailed as potentially the strongest build in the game in Season 8, has been weirdly shadow nerfed with no callouts either in the patch notes or any real realization that this was coming. We actually just kind of figured it out when we went to go test a couple weird bugs that other people were referring to. And then we kind of reread this item and we realized a lot's different with the Blood Spear Necromancer. But I do feel like, one, in the position that I'm in the Necro community, but also two, the amount of like immediate confusion that us even trying to digest this ourselves on stream was causing in people watching the stream, that I would try my best to not only fully realize the implications here, but also try to educate everybody on what's different. Because looking at this item very quickly, you may not notice it, but basically everything that we thought about the build and how it was fixed and the bugs that were fixed kind of got thrown out the window. And again, it wasn't really referred to in the patch notes. So what am I talking about? Well, this item used to look a lot different. Deathless Visage's unique aspect used to say that Bone Spear was going to deal more critical strike damage, and that it would form echoes that would burst for an amount of flat damage. Now, this always scales off of your weapon damage, so you can kind of consider this like your skill damage, but for the effect. But that this would be increased by 5% for every 25% of critical strike damage bonus that you had, and it included a current bonus total. The critical strike damage bonus that you got was based off of the critical strike damage total that you have in your stat sheet, not the actual total that you have, because if you look, I actually have 0 critical strike damage for my Gira Paragon, but because critical strike damage is a 50% damage multiplier, it will show a total bonus of 50%. And if I were to add any critical strike damage to my build, that number would continue to overinflate. Even something as simple as sacrificing my Iron Golem will show you that I now all of a sudden magically have 102 critical strike damage, when in reality, I don't. I have the original 50% critical strike damage multiplier and a new 35% critical strike damage multiplier. And it adds them into here and it continues to overinflate them. That's why it's actually a good thing that Deathless Visage is different mechanically, because it's going to be a lot more intuitive. Players are going to be able to actually understand what's going on here. And you're not going to have to do this weird cat and mouse multiplication abuse system to be able to get the most out of an overinflated stat sheet. The issue being that that overinflated stat sheet would make it so that one of these echoes would basically do about 55% more damage than the Bone Spear that left it behind. That number comes from Just Aureus. Just Aureus is another great theory crafter in the community. You'll find them in the Sanctuary Discord, and luckily they're able to share that number with me, because I myself do not have that exact number available. So again, Just Aureus, I appreciate you. But now, what the aspect says is that Bone Spear still has a crit damage multiplier, and casting it will form an echo, which will do 80% of its normal damage. 80% of the base spear, as opposed to what it was before, which was at max scaling, 55% more damage. So we go from each echo doing 55% more damage to each echo only doing 80% of the spear's damage. Now, when you sit down and think about it and you start to crunch some of the numbers and how the echoes function and the fact that you can get 2 echoes to explode per target, per spear, that means that 1 spear would have to be evaluated against 2 echoes worth of damage. All of that said and told, if you were to do all that math, very quickly, what it comes down to is that Deathless Visage, when you shoot out a spear and you get 2 echoes to explode on the target, has lost 35% of its damage. Now, that doesn't necessarily seem like a lot, but the build, which was basically bugged to the point of near non-functionality in Season 7, which in the patch notes got a huge amount of those bugs fixed. And when I tested the build, walking into the Eternal Realm while we were still waiting for the season to start, all of the things seem to function, but when you get a little bit further under the hood, you realize that there's another very, very serious change to the functionality of this. And it comes down to the word casting. Deathless Visage says that casting it referring to Bone Spear, will form an echo. Now, luckily, the double damage temper that Bone Spear has is chance for Bone Spear projectiles to cast twice. So if I were to cast twice on this, I will get 2 echoes. So if I can just show you that very quickly, boom, boom, bang, bang. Now, you get 3 echoes because as it travels, you get 3 of them, but you would notice that there were 2 on each one of those locations. So that's still working. That's perfectly great. But the big thing, the big issue with the build, well, there was a lot of issues with the build, but the biggest issue with the build is that Indira's memory and the bone spears that would cast out of Indira's memory were basically just like non-functional. 1, they just didn't work all of the time. 2, they didn't overpower when they were supposed to. 3, they didn't pierce and shoot back shards, and often the shards would end up just shooting out of your Necromancer. But 4, they wouldn't generate echoes like you would expect them to, because Bone Spear is additionally a blood skill, and when it consumes a corpse, it would launch another Bone Spear from it. Deathless Visage did not say cast before. Deathless Visage said that Bone Spear deals more damage and forms echoes. Basically, if there was a Bone Spear projectile, it would leave behind echoes. They fixed Indira's memory to mostly work, but now that those Bone Spears are not considered casts, but are instead bonus projectiles which are produced from a non-cast effect, they do not get the echoes either. So what this comes down to is that Indira's memory will consume corpses. It will fire additional Bone Spears. Those Bone Spears now do overpower. When they overpower, they now do heal you based off your skill tree. The build is significantly better functioning than it was in Season 7. And arguably should be stronger. But this changed how Deathless Visage works, not only losing a massive crit damage multiplier for the echoes, which were basically the vast majority of the damage that the build dealt, even once everything started overpowering. The echoes also overpowered. The echoes were by far the largest amount of damage on the build, which was not a good thing. I did not like that. The issue is that it hasn't been properly compensated here. The echoes now do less damage than the Bone Spear. They no longer have that additional damage scaling. So that means that the build overall has become weaker. Now, what does that mean for the tiering of it? What does that mean for the overall power of it? What does that mean? Is the build dead, etc.? These are the biggest questions I was getting during my stream. And 1, I haven't played the build in the end game to be able to tell you just how impactful these changes have been. But what I can tell you is that I do currently have it together in the season. And not only that, it's doing a lot better than the minion build that I had going on. So let me just go ahead and show you what I'm working with for that build. I'll start rattling off some damage numbers for you, and then we can talk about what the possible implications are here. This is my current seasonal character. By the end of today's stream, I was able to reach level 107 Paragon, and this is the gear that I put together for my Bone Spear Necromancer, for my Blood Spear Necromancer. You notice that I do not have an Ancestral Deathless Visage. I do not have perfect rolls on it. You notice that I do not have an Ancestral Indira's Memory. I don't have extra ranks to Tides of Blood, no affixes on the maximum life, etc. You notice that I have basically non-ancestral gear everywhere except for my weapon. My weapon is ancestral. I had to roll the ancestral stat off of it. Not only that, I actually can't even afford to roll it for the stat that I need on it to be able to use the rune words, which I also don't have for it. My amulet is this. I literally do not have passives on it. It is not ancestral. And then across the rest of my gear, I'm actually missing 3 of the aspects that we would want for this build, including Dark Dance, which on our amulet is 120% damage multiplier. I just don't have the aspect yet. You notice that even though this is a dual GA ring, the only good roll on it is the intelligence. I have essence on kill is completely garbage. We are not supposed to be using Rathmas here. I actually am just supposed to be able to reach attack speed cap just through my tempers. Basically, what I'm trying to show you here is that the gear that I'm currently using is hot garbage. I'm actually still just using my minions beast power, because I'm too lazy to swap them out and I don't have the right ones for the build yet. I'm only on 3, count them 3 Paragon boards at this point, and I have 3 different glyphs, all of which are only level 15 or lower. So I've ranked 16 on Eliminator, 15 on Essence, and only 10 on Corporeal. Oddly enough, I haven't finished up my Paragon either. Missing a couple mythics like Shroud of False Death here. Basically, this gear, this setup, this character power, which is only in World Tier 3 at this point, is incredibly low. And the damage numbers that I'm already seeing on this build are actually much higher than you would expect for this level of gear. At this point, I'm already doing well over 100 million damage per spear And then the echoes are also doing 80% of that. And 4 echoes can hit the target simultaneously. 2 spears will hit the target simultaneously, if not more, depending on how often Indira's procs. I only have 37 plus 40, so I only have a 77% chance for Bone Spear to cast twice here. I'm missing 3 damage aspects. I don't have Ancestral Gear, etc. So I see this build doing well into the billions and billions of damage per spear cast. And just because people often ask for it, I figured I'd show you a little bit of gameplay. So this is me going up into Torment 4. My gear absolutely should not be able to support me in Torment 4. I might get 1-tapped. But I just wanted to show you the damage numbers so you can at least see them firsthand. So the only 2 things that are really important to notice is that basically I'm also missing 2 rune words, which would not only just automate my application of curses here, but would also further increase my damage by literally doubling it with the Cax rune. Which is just, I just don't have it. I just haven't lifted one up off the ground yet. But if we were to get everything all nice and bunched up, hit it with a curse, actually get our multis on it, you'll see that we have ones doing 76 million, 95 million. We got 100 million proc in there as well. Go ahead and get everything all, again, just nice and grouped up. Boodly boop. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Please get exploded on. Yeah. So the damage is there. The damage output is actually still just kind of nutty. This is vastly outperforming the damage output of the minions build I had, and on that one I actually have like a really good rolled Mendeln. Actually have like pretty decent gear for my minions, basically every aspect I could want. But when we're talking about the actual damage of this spear and then the follow-up damage from the echoes, the build's outputting damage fine. Lord Sara is actually currently playing, oop, don't let me die. Lord Sara is actually currently playing on Bloodwave. And Bloodwave for Lord Sara right now was doing somewhere around like 200 million damage per damage instance. And oddly enough, we are firing off a lot more Bone Spears here than Lord Sara is able to fire off Bloodwaves. And Bloodwave is probably the contender for the strongest Necromancer build right now, if it turns out that we can't get Blood Spear to output damage. But the damage that I'm doing on significantly worse setup, I think at like minus 30 Paragon levels. And again, just on a build that requires a lot more gear to get up and go, is already outputting. I think that was 142 million there. So we're doing damage. The build is going to be just fine. Is it going to be literally our best build? It's hard to say unless we take a perfect setup, we take it out and we start doing some, objective math here, just trying to get to what the pit tier it can clear is, highest DPS potential could be, and then we can start to better understand it. But I just wanted to show it to you, a little bit of show and tell here, so you can get an understanding of it yourself, depending on what kind of damage numbers you're seeing out in the wild. Now, I know a lot of the people, at least here in my community, in my chat, were basically only excited to be playing Blood Spear walking into this season. They didn't want to play Bloodwave again. They saw the difference in, what kind of options were going to be available for us for our builds. And they said, hey, I want to play Blood Spear. It's supposed to be the strongest. You promised. Well, nobody's saying I promised. They are saying I quoted it. And I did, because we should have expected it. Sadly, the patch notes just didn't include this, and I'm not quite sure why. Things fall through the cracks all the time. I don't think it's malicious. I don't think the devs are out to get us, regardless of kind of how often, let's just be honest, like how often this happens, especially on the Necromancer class. I put out a video recently. Minions are experiencing some bugs. Not the end of the world. Devs are already aware. I believe it's going to be in a patch very soon. I don't have an exact information for that. I wish I could give that to you. I just don't have it. But this kind of thing, this change where the functionality of the build is changing, the functionality of the item is changing, there's a balance pass being done to a unique item, and it just not making it into the patch notes just kind of sucks. If we're being honest, if we're being candid, it just kind of sucks. And I wish this wasn't the way that you had to find out. But at least now you know. I hope I was able to explain it. If you still had any more questions, let me know down in the comments. If you're brand new here and you're seeing my stuff for the first time, I promise I'm going to be bringing exciting stuff. I'm actually really happy with how minions were doing. I am really happy with how this build is doing. So once I get into a better spot, or I'm up into World Tier 4, I got my stuff on and I can kind of show you the full breadth of it. I'll be putting out build guides for these as well. So look forward to them. Please do not despair. The builds are fine, but I do think that was important for people to get this information so that you're not guessing, you're not thinking it's bugged, you don't feel misled. At the very least, now you got this info. But again, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Leave a like on the video if you wouldn't mind. It would help me out a ton. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and anything that puts it further into the algorithm. Helps me out a ton. Leave a comment down below as well if you found any bugs, any weird discrepancies, any weird interactions, anything you're coming across. Now is the time to test it. Now is the time to get into the hands of the devs if they need to take a look at it. I will do my due diligence in trying to test as much stuff as I possibly can. But it's you people in the community that makes it so much easier for me. And when we all work together, I think that we get to better information. That's enough of me yapping though. Thank you very much for watching this video. I truly, truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.